Hello everyone, welcome back for some more Let's Play Ka Kachusha? Kakusha Toya. Yes. Kagetsu Tohya. Hi, what's up? We're back. As I said, we accidentally went into the third act entirely through me clicking randomly, thus leading to us missing a number of scenes. But as I said, no worries. We will find a way to get there. Again, apparently this game has debug options that you can just like change the world state. So that's nice. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But for now, we have a large variety of scenes that await for us. So as such, what I think is let's head on in and let's not go to the intersection. As long as we do that, we should be good. So let's go head on in. I was also told to check out the Red Demon God. Someone told me that you need to have the context of that before you get to the ending. So we will do that as we go on. But this game being an enigma, it's like, who knows where we'll go. Actually, you know what? No, just for now. Let me double check. I was the one that they told me to check, right? I'm just Googling it. I'm just Googling it very carefully. Yes, Red Demon God. We'll get this one out of the way. It's part 10. We can do a little interlude. And then after that, we will be going back in. So, Red Demon God. Hey, let me tell you an old story. Red Demon God. Prologue. Oh, does this have multiple parts? Chapters? For a split second, there was a dull yet smooth sound. Ugh. The man died by getting his neck crushed from the front. It wasn't an instant death, but a painful one which takes a few seconds after receiving the wound. Even so, the man could never see the figure of the attacker. In the few seconds until he died, the only thing he was thinking of was to let others know that there was an attacker. Another smooth sound. Right next to the man, the other guard, who was literally an arm's length from him, died similarly as well. What a bad dream, the man thought. If there were any intruders in their area, they wouldn't even let a rat pass through. And now, he was dying without even noticing the death of his partner. This could only be a dream. But this was reality. It wasn't the work of a human. It could have been a familiar that is skilled in hiding its presence, or the work of a demon unknown to him. The pupil enlarged. The camera called the eyeball. Don't say that. That sounds so lame. But then again, it's that mixture of technology and mysticism. Oh, Nasu, you're getting into it even now. The camera called the eyeball caught the figure of the assailant before it lost its function. I was clearly smiling. The figure was a human. The presence and the smell was no different from a normal human either. In his hands, he was carrying something that looked like a drumstick. Okay, do you mean like the chicken kind or the kind for like playing the drums? The man was surprised that his neck was crushed by such a thing, and he was even more surprised by the fact that the assailant was really just a human. The assailant walked on quietly. Another smooth sound. The guards in the other areas died just like them. It's a terrible dream, the man thought, without any presence or reek of murder. An ordinary human who does not have any mixed blood was crushing through the tight defense of the inhuman bloodlines. I see. The man was convinced in his disappearing consciousness that is our enemy this time. The taboo within the hybrids, the head of the Nanayas who's said to be a demon god. Oh. Okay. Are we talking like the same type that are like the pillars of Goetia? That assailant's name was Nanaya Kiri. Half an hour had passed since the assault began. Kiri had already taken care of all the guards outside the mansion, and now he only needed to assassinate the target within. There were 20 men outside the mansion. That was more than what Kiri was told. 20, wow. It is an excessive murder, Kiri laughed. It was an innocent laugh, like a child's. Killing was the profession of the young man called Nanaya Kiri. To put it simply, an assassin. And it was an assassin with a history that is going back generations. No doubt in the past or present, and hopefully in the future, such a job title should not be allowed. Because it's not allowed, such things should not exist. That's why the Nanaya family had been living in the shadow of shadows, in the darker dark. Oh, they live in the area where Mufasa told Simba, yeah, not over there. No, the reason why they had to hide in the shadows is not because of their job, but it had to be their bloodline. There's a thing called a demon. Even though it exists within the rule of nature, here is a power that isn't needed because it is said to disrupt its flow. There are many types of them, but they all appear evil for someone who is within the straight flow. A demon is a disruption, and demon hunters are a gathering of those who fix the disruption. But disruption isn't of a single type. The demon hunters fix disruptions within nature, but can't fix the disruption within humans. For example, there's a type of demon called the ogre. This is a demon that isn't from the straight flow from the beginning, and clearly a genuine demon. In the straight flow, rather, okay. The demon hunters are fit to banish them, but it's a different story when these ogres mix with humans. So when we say ogre, are we talking about the word oni? Because it's a thing, are you translating this, or are we going with something else? Because, I mean, this to me sounds a bit like, Koyo Kijio in our Kyo Kojio, whatever, the dinosaur chick from Fate. Because the demon hunters are an organization in the lawful spell branch, created by humans to protect the human society, they are not supposed to hurt humans. Are you talking about the church? Or are you talking about something else? For that reason, they will have a difficult time against a mix of a demon and human. A long time ago, there were many whom wished to become hybrids with demons who are greater beings. As a result, a few of them made that possible. Using the power of the demons, even as a human, they sometimes help the demon hunters, while sometimes they become their worst enemies. That ratio is very fragile. The hybrids who place themselves within the demon hunters are hybrids who oppose the demon hunters. Whoa. The hybrids who place themselves with the demon hunters and the hybrids who oppose the demon hunters hate each other, and they continue to fight below the surface. Of course, the demon hunters oppose the hybrids as well. But as a general principle, demon hunters are those who fix a disruption. Demons are disruptions just by existing, so they banish them right away. But demon-human hybrids are not a disruption. In order for a hybrid to be considered a disruption, the demon blood needs to become thicker than human blood. These demon hybrids who can't maintain the human side anymore are seen as being out of alignment, and the demon hunters finally see them as their target. However, when the hybrids go out of alignment, they become the worst enemies for the demon hunters. Because they have a human side, binding spells won't work on them. Because they have the alien power of the demons, it's impossible to stand up against them with the body of a human. In the past, when weapons were undeveloped, killing them meant many casualties. However, there was a special case. Psychic ability. Even though the demons and the demon hunters oppose each other, their powers actually originate from the same place. Therefore, there is a common rule between them, and they have a fair fight within its bounds. But rarely, there are those who are outside of this rule. Those are the alien powers called psychic abilities, and the psychics. They don't follow the rules of demons and carry inhuman power as pure humans. Some say that this is a suppressing power that was born from the unconscious of mankind. The targets of the suppression are, no doubt, ones who are a threat to the humans, who are the highest primates. People who achieve these abilities don't need to study an out-of-date technology like sorcery. Ignoring the principle of yin and yang, the interaction with nature, psychic ability is an extreme power achieved by the human race who became detached from nature. Without interacting with nature like demons, they have superhuman power while still being humans. They are just like the hybrids, but instead of borrowing power from alien blood, they are humans born with special abilities. Because they are advanced abilities, they end a single generation after an accidental appearance. Oh. That's interesting. Commonly called the Psychics, they are the bane of the demon hybrids. To put it simply, the Nanaya clan is a special case of them. But note, Psychics are not stronger than demons. It's impossible for them to stand up against them. The psychic ability is just a small needle that doesn't follow the rules of yin and yang. Those abilities and effects are extremely small compared to the interaction with the nature of the demons and the demon hunters, and there is no way a psychic is able to fight them alone. But still, a power outside the rule can be a threat to those who live inside the rule. The demon hunters hide their existence in the beginning and use them to catch the hybrids off guard by having them appear in the middle of battle. It's kind of like saying a psychic support is a stone that is thrown between two people glaring at each other. The psychics use their unusual abilities to just once create a decisive opening in their opponent. That's how demon hunters use the psychics. Even for the hybrids, they are just a bothersome, unpredictable factor. Yes, there's not a chance in a million years in this world that such a thing as a psychic ability, which is the only power of only the power of a human, can defeat a demon that is nature. However, here was the one in a million demon god. Since the ancient times, the Nanaya lived for generations without mixing their blood. Many hideous children were born for... Oh! Oh, it runs in the family. Okay. Many hideous children were born for being incestuous, but the ones who were able to grow up became powerful. I'd say like, oh man, that's crazy and whack, but then, you know, Saber's family. Repeating that single blending was the reason they were able to solidly carry on their psychic abilities, which are supposed to be a mutational gene that only lasts for one generation. Okay. Okay, so are we getting to where it says that, like, Kiri had the eyes too? Is that what we're getting at? No. No, maybe? What? Let's see. On top of that, the Nanayas polished their skills as assassins and learned a way to bring the psychics, who were normally on a suicide mission, home alive. As a result, we have the Nanaya clan with the power outside of the boundary of a human, and the human body trained to the limit. At that point, they were not considered a clan with psychic ability, but a clan which is specifically given the title of Demon Hunters. Boy, lot of getting very specific about these titles and names, huh? That was the only way for the Nanaya family, who were psychics discriminated against even more than the hybrids at times, to show their usefulness and live. That's how the Demon Hunters possessed the Nanayas as their absolute war power. A long and boring time passed by after that. The Nanayas kept on being the greatest assassins. They knew better than anyone else that the moment they fall down from the top, the Nanaya bloodline will die out. An echoing smooth sound. Within a few minutes after Kiri entered the mansion, he killed a sixth person. Nanaya Kiri specialized in indoor jobs. There are walls and there's a ceiling. Kiri's field of activity would expand to them and he moved like a spider that captures its prey. His speed was not a spider's, but a beast's. If there was an observer, he would have marveled at how bizarre yet beautiful a human can move. 2 ahead. No, 3. Kiri confirmed his targets through the wall. He had assassinated over 30 so far. They'd all been relatives of a man named Psyche, the target, and each one of them had been a hybrid monster. The truth was that Naikiri was the weakest being among the people inside the mansion. No matter how much power he wielded as a demon hunter, the power of a single human was too little. There's no way he could win against a demon that links to the world and changes the environment. On top of that, Kiri's psychic ability was only auxiliary, the ability to see the flow of people's thoughts. Interesting, okay. It was too thin a thread to challenge a layer of monsters who could easily do things like reversing the temperature and freeze the opponent just by glaring at them. But Kiri only needed that thread. It sounds to me like, when they talk about the thread, makes me think of like, Kiritsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer there. By stretching the thin thread around, changing the monster's lair into his own hunting ground, he killed his prey one by one. Oh, so he basically has, like, the sight of where they're walking, and, yeah. Of course, there could be any murderous intentions or tensions. For the head of Nanayas, this hunting ground was his daily routine. He took out another 3. The thing in Kiri's hand was only a steel drumstick. He liked to use his plain weapon, and he thrust it into the vital spots of a human. We're talking like an actual, drumming stick, huh? It was a savage way of killing, far from the superior assassination skill called the pressure point. With the point of the stick that is neither thin nor thick, he crushed the bones instead of the muscle. At times, he thrusted the opponent's head from above and caused the head to be pushed into the body. Ooh! Ooh, that's horrible! Like his name said, his weapon was more like a giant awl than a drumstick. It couldn't cut, but it could make holes. As a result, it was rare that he got stained with the blood of his enemy like this. Kiri shook off the blood by wielding the drumstick. There are only 2 more people left in the mansion. He was planning to spill the smell of blood here to alarm his prey, but he ended up drilling a hole into one with extra high tension. Disgusting blood. It even smells nasty. The irritated assassin said to himself, getting showered by blood, and Kiri stopped his footsteps for the first time. He didn't like blood, thinking that the sticky red liquid might bring down his precision. Kiri found no pleasure in killing. He took this path just because he was born into the Nair family and was physically fitter than his siblings. It wasn't like his older brother, who enjoyed killing, nor like his younger sister, who was highly sensitive to demons and feared them. To say the least, he was the type of person who dedicates himself to one thing: how skillfully he could put a stop to the human body. That pursuit was a duty for those born in the Nair family, and Kiri was just doing that single-mindedly. When he noticed there was no one who was better than him, and after he was chosen as the head, he just kept on killing the mixed beings every day for years. If you look back, that's all there was to his life. But Kiri never felt it was a burden. The only thing on his mind was how skillfully he could kill someone. Once again, the concept of, just turning into a killing machine. That was the only meaning to his life since he was born as a Nair. The 8th guy went pretty good. I'll try that again when I get home. Out of the 30 people he killed today, Kiri recalled the one he was able to kill the quickest. There was no enjoyment or pain. Kiri lacked those emotions. Therefore, he was suited for being the head of the Nairs. Not enjoying or fearing murder, but being able to concentrate on it is the natural talent of the killer. That killer suddenly felt something strange. A foreign object, strange, entered his view, which had been perceiving only 2 more people. There was a vermilion flow inside the mansion. Kiri was able to perceive people's thoughts. Thoughts are waves, and most of them have a dull, transparent color in which emotions can be lightly read by the speed of its flow. But there are some with their own color. Those are monsters that are too horrifying to be described as human. As far as Kiri knew, there were a few in the Demon Hunter organization with a divine color of blue and silver. Why did that open up? I don't need that. This was vermilion. No, if I'll approach its body, I'll probably perceive a clearer red. Kiri had never seen a thought that strong, a thought that wicked. Without finishing to wipe the blood that still dripped from his hair, Kiri started walking. Inside was a boy who looked barely 10 years old. The boy was wounded all over his body, and his hands and legs were chained. It was apparent that was alienated even among the hybrids. Kiri saw what it was right away. But it had nothing to do with the Kiri after all. If this boy was here to protect Kiri's target, only then he needed to kill him, but that wasn't even given such a job. For Kiri, this boy was no different from a pebble on the road. Kiri's job was to ignore and walk past him. The sound of chains. The boy looked up and perceived Kiri. That moment, Kiri thrust his weapon into the boy's face. He pulled out the drenched drumstick. The weapon crushed the boy's eye completely. Without even screaming, the boy's head dropped down. The dripping blood stained the tatami floor, and Kiri left the room. That was the one and only personal murderous act done by the Master of Assassins. He found out the reason why at the end. Okay. That personal murderous intention destroyed his precise rationality for the first time. He must have been excited. The course of action of Nanae Kiri took after that was so terrible that it suggests vomiting. He barged into the room where Psyche, the target, and a man who was sent to keep an eye on him were. Where are we? What is this room? It looks like a church basement. That wasn't like Nanae Kiri. The reason he was able to come back alive after fighting against the hybrids was because of all that was done by assassination. A barbarous act like this was suicide. And the hybrid called Psyche didn't hesitate to use all of his power against Nanae Kiri, who was invading instead of sneaking in. No, let me make a correction. He didn't hesitate because his opponent was the murderer, Nanae Kiri. This man saw that from the closest place. This man was the eldest son of a hybrid family and knew the head of the Psyche family. But unlike Psyche, he cooperated with the demon hunters. Because for him, his family's safety was a lot more important than the pride of his ancestors. And he secretly formed an alliance with the demon hunter organization and worked under Psyche while he kept an eye on him and made reports. It was he who was reporting that Psyche ate human flesh, that there were more than 1,000 casualties. Originally, Psyche was the old type of hybrid full of dominance. From the view of a hybrid who just wanted to live peacefully like this one, he was just an annoying old man. On top of that, if this old man, who was a dictator, died, the Psyche Group Corporation would have a hole in it. It was his ambition as a businessman to make full use of it. That's how the man sold the Psyche bloodline, and the demon hunters who brought it sent an assassin called Nanae Kiri. The man raised a pathetic voice and realized what a dangerous place he was in. He raised a voice like a broken doll, but that disappeared behind the constantly echoing smooth sounds. Zoo, splash, 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 splat. Is this what's called no questions asked? The man was looking at the evil demon with a laugh. There was no other choice but to look. Just as if a storm ripped into the room, the assassin annihilated Psyche's body. When the Fusuma door opened and the assassin made an appearance, the man cursed. That was hopeless. Even if you prepare a dozen demon hunters, they won't be able to win head-on against Psyche, who had completely awakened his demon blood. Just as he thought that this was all there was to the rumored head of the Nanayas, it happened. There was a wooden table in the traditional Japanese room. The assassin slid under it as he appeared. The man and Psyche were caught off guard. For one thing, this is a small table. What is he doing? The instant he thought that, Psyche was dragged under the table by his foot. Then this. There was no time for Psyche to scream. The moment he was dragged under the table, the head of the old man called Psyche rolled over the tatami floor. The body parts started flying everywhere. Under that table, in a space so small that barely one person fitted into it, the terrible dissection took place. And then, drenched in blood all over his body, the assassin crawled out. Noises. Nanae Kiri approached the man who couldn't help but laugh. The emotionless eyes gazed at him, who was also a hybrid. He's gonna kill me for sure, he sensed. He pointed at the random assassin and laughed. The assassin holding the weapons drenched in blood stood in front of the man and pushed Psyche's head rolling next to him to his foot. A heavy sound, while holding the skewered head as if he got rid of an annoying fly. Shut up. He struck his other weapon into the heart of the man who kept on laughing. The reason Nanae Kiri missed the vital spot was again, probably because he was terribly excited. The man who was laughing fell, and Kiri left the mansion without checking whether he was dead or alive. The man who had his chest struck survived. Uh-oh. Introduction, development, turn. Okay. For some odd reason, I saw 4 dreams. A dream in which I went back to my childhood. A dream in which I became a child. A dream in which I thought of a child. Oh, and one more. Myself laughing terribly out of place, and myself in my childhood similarly laughing together in a sunny garden. He was in a dark traditional Japanese room. This was the space he was given since he was little, and this was the only space in which he was able to be free. He was only a small child, so he was satisfied with this size. He even remembered complaining that it was too big. It wasn't very comfortable being with the others in the first place, because his eyes were special, and it was only an eye that seemed to look into the inner side of people. That's why he never learned words until he grew quite big. Probably because he was able to feel what people were thinking without talking. On top of that, the words that they used to communicate didn't really match their emotions. That's why he didn't learn words. He thought that it was useless to learn a method of communication that is so incoherent. It was only natural. He was taught one thing in the beginning. A year passed after that. There wasn't really anyone who came to see him during that time. There was nothing else to do, so he repeated what he was taught, and that became boring, so he modified it to a way that was easier for him to do. And it was taught the second thing, it was after he'd already learned it. Maybe not having a teacher was beneficial, and he was able to use his body without being restricted by common sense. His talent had been discovered at that point. He knew that this was a way to kill people since he was born. He knew that this family was the kind of family that he couldn't escape from that obligation. That's why the rest was really simple. He accepted that and kept on polishing his techniques. And that was the only meaning of his existence. Anything else must have been a bother for them. That's why he just kept on running. Without looking back and without thinking of anything else, he aimed for something. Even as a child, he thought that he was just going to think about how well he can kill someone all his life. But as a result, that was wrong. Was that dream the first? Okay, dream the second? The boy was in a dark traditional Japanese room. This was the space he was given since he was little, and this was the only space in which he was able to be free. The boy was only a small child, so I think he was satisfied with the size. The boy glares at the empty space as if he's complaining that it was too big. The boy didn't understand people in the first place. Their behaviors, expressions, words. He didn't understand anything well. The boy thought he must not be human, but a good dog. There was a severe gap that, if it wasn't it, he might have gone crazy. That gap wasn't solvable until the boy met the same type of person as him. Everyone called him a demon child. They were a clan that continued to mix with a pure demon called an ogre in the first place. But once the boy who preserved the desired purity was born, the clan desperately tried to hide his existence. Even they, who were not normal, must have realized that he wasn't something that should be born. So the sins of their bloodline over several hundred years had finally taken shape in their generation. Those who were called the Kishimas finally realized that they were taking the path to destruction when they got there. No doubt, this is where all the bloodlines of the hybrids ends. Oh, the Kishimas are a hybrid. They were just terribly slower than the others, or terribly early. The boy was never taught anything. No one talked to him in the first place, so there was no need to learn words, and there was never a need to tell others his thoughts either. The boy's vicious eyes pull out the inner side of people. Most of the people who meet him were nothing but terrified. That's how the boy learned that the people were like that, and since they only act like that, there was no need for him to learn words. It was only natural. The boy liked the forest and wished to be among the animals. They didn't allow that, even if it was just out of formality. They couldn't let the successor of the family live that way. More than anything, it must have been embarrassment for them to have the next head of the family wishing to live like a beast. But the boy wasn't a fool like they were thinking, and he matured pretty fast. The boy knew how to seal his power early on, and as a matter of fact, he never opened his cage since he was born. That was like a fasting that began right when he was born. The boy just kept on suppressing his thirst, and the beast called himself. Normally, the bloodlust only happens after growing up as a human and finding something in the need of protection. The inversion impulse that the boy's bloodline experiences destroys that person within a year, even the mind of an adult. The boy was withstanding that quietly. It should have been impossible for a child who does not know words and who does not know what a family is. In other words, the boy was trying to protect his family without even knowing. Father, mother, siblings. He doesn't even know how those things are related with himself. But he was suppressing himself to protect them. That's probably because he knew that someday returning to soil peacefully after being forgotten like that was the right thing. But that didn't last long. The one who put an end to it was something other than the boy. Someone rather. You were out of your mind since you were born. Receiving that curse, the boy was shot in the head with a bullet. Those words were true. The boy was different since he was born. That's why he was able to suppress the blood longer than them, and didn't go crazy like them. And then, the boy who was out of his mind since he was born couldn't even die from such a thing. When the old man called Psyche brought all his men, it was all over. The mansion burned down and the clan was slaughtered, leaving only one person. He didn't understand what a family was in the first place, so ending it must have been easy for him. That's how he was possessed. There was no regret, no remorse, no emotion, and no feelings. After all, that was a living being that can only exist that way from the beginning. Okay, I'm starting to piece it together. And so he was in the old traditional Japanese room. He wanted and accepted this traditional room like that was like a prison for him. He was sitting straight in the room that's too big for a child and looking absentmindedly at the forest in the night. He was frightened every time he looked at you. It was probably because he didn't know your looks well enough. After you were born, he left the organization. There were many who opposed, but he shut them up by force. That was wrong, but I think there was no other way. He came back to the mansion where he spent his childhood, and as a result, you were locked within the dark forest. He wasn't thinking of making you go through the same life that he did. Even then, he taught you the minimum to protect yourself, and there was also a time when you were playing, trying to copy him. But you weren't a person like him, and you were an unbelievably gentle child. When you said that you liked this place without anything, deep in the mountains, and said that you were going to live here all your life and pass away quietly, he was frightened again. He knew that a child's wish was his wish, and it was a wish that would never be fulfilled. Because he never talked much, you rarely spoke either. Even then, it was obvious to everyone that you loved him, who wasn't very good at expressing his feelings, and her, who was always sick in bed. Who's the her? Because you had an honest affection, everyone understood your mind without having you put it into words. It was only natural that you didn't need words. Even then, he didn't take you out to the open until you were able to protect yourself. In the 6th winter, when this was soon to be settled, in the season waiting for spring, he heard a disturbing rumor. They said a certain group of hybrids was after his clan. He wasn't surprised. For one thing, his clan killed so many under the name of the organization. After losing the protection from the organization, there should be many who'd want to take revenge against his clan. This was also only natural. Hearing that his mansion was getting attacked soon, Nair laughed lightly. You idiot, this is no time to be laughing. There isn't much time. If you're going to do something about it, make it quick. Aren't you the head of a clan? You shouldn't be ending your bloodline in such a small disaster. The doctor glared at Kiri. This is a man he knew from way back. Even after Kiri left the organization, he couldn't just forget about him and secretly told him about the assault. But Nair, the person in question, was just sitting there laughing. No, but thanks for the information. What difference does escaping make? If you're going to attack us, I would rather confront them in my own backyard. I don't intend on asking you for help, and moreover, this being the first hunting in a long time, Kiri sharpened his eyes. Kiri, didn't you leave the organization to break away from that job? You knew that assassins were no longer needed anymore. Isn't that why you went out of your way and left? If that's the case, stop preaching. Why is it that I have to listen to your lectures when I come in just for treatment? Here, stop talking and start working, you old quack. Oh man, like father, like son, huh? I got my shoulder busted working as a bodyguard when I haven't done so in a while. I don't understand. Someone is after you and when you're supposed to have quit, but you're minding your own business and taking on a job as a bodyguard for Tozaki. Now, because you do odd jobs like that, there are fools who start seeing the Nanais as problematic. Oh, don't worry, there's a lot of things about the Nanais that are problematic. How can I help it? We've known the Tozakis since the previous head. Besides, they actually got some money. I was gonna say, is that like the Tosakas? And then they said money. Nope, not at all. It's a pretty good job. I thought you settled down after you had a child, but you haven't changed. I heard you were a fond father, but I'm starting to be suspicious. Shut up. Forget that. Hurry up and finish it. Kiri didn't speak anymore, and the doctor treated him quietly. And suddenly, "Hey, old man." The assassin once feared as a demon god raised a voice in an extremely calm tone. "People's lives are very well made." "Oh? What makes you say that?" "Nothing. I just felt that way." Muttering that, Kiri stopped talking. 6 years ago, as the head of the Nanayas, he had a child. In order to maintain the precision of being assassins, they made the generation transition early rather. By the time their physical ability started to decline, their child had already matured, and the name of Nanaya succeeded to the next generation. His elder brother and the younger sister already had children, and they were receiving training as potential successor. Whoa, wait. Hold up, are you... Whoa. Shiki has cousins? Like, Nanaya blood cousins? Interesting. Compared to them, Kiri had a child quite late. Okay, and they're older. The reason Kiri never had a child was because he simply didn't find the need to do so. He was just thinking of having his older brother or younger sister's children be the successor. For Kiri, who had only an interest in how to kill people, things such as a child was totally beyond understanding. No, maybe Kiri already knew that he was a person who grew up while still remaining a child. A person who concentrated into one thing, chipping off everything needed as a human being. A person who was only looking at what he liked. An inexperienced child who only knew about one thing. There was no way such a child could raise a son, and obviously he never imagined it. In other words, a child was something excessive and not needed for Nanaya Kiri. That was before he saw his own son. Kiri was thinking he shouldn't feel anything. He never needed it to begin with, so a son had to be something just bothersome. That's why he was thinking of seeing him just once and leaving the rest to that woman. However, his world flipped over when he saw him. It was a transformation that felt like something fell right in his place. Or did the thing that was possessing him since he was born disappear? Either way, the instant Nanaya Kiri saw this living being, he made up his mind to quit his career as an assassin. He probably still doesn't carry such an emotion like loving his child, but he just felt that he needed to, and his lifestyle since that day completely changed. He was a man who only knew how to kill people in the first place, and now he was trying to make people live. This was literally a turning point in life. Kiri said that people's lives are very well made. That was definitely true, and everything about the ways of making people live were new to him, and difficult. Kiri, who was accustomed to killing, was no longer bored of his life for the past months and years. Can I ask you something? Did you quit because you loved your son? No way. I quit for myself. That's right. If a child is a duplicate clone of oneself, which they're not, that's literally not how DNA works, you know that? My man, we've seen the videos, the two DNA strands. You didn't want to make him take the same path as you? I wanted to see if he was able to take a different path than me. I see, the doctor nodded his head. The treatment is over and Kiri turned his back. Alright, take care. If we ever meet again, I might ask you for your help. The doctor doesn't answer. After Nanaya Kiri left, the doctor repeats his words. He's able to take a different path, eh? I wonder if the man who said that it was for himself realized that this emotion was in fact the love of a father. You fool. Why did you have to develop a human emotion now? Everything was too late. Finding happiness as a human was a misfortune for that flawless killer. It's impossible for you. You'll never be able to attain it. Mumbling to himself, the doctor laughed with a sigh. The killer himself must know that more than anyone. That man has already accepted his end that will eventually come. Involving his clan, including his son, he left the path of being an assassin. Being the head of the Nanayas, he must have known. The Nanayas were able to exist because they were able to be the greatest assassins. Hence, when they go down from the top, that's when the Nanaya clan dies out. Just that its arrival came 6 years slower. It was all there was to this story. Obviously not if it's now labeled conclusion. And so the night came. So, we are unable to make contact with the men below? Yes. Additionally, the Farseers have spotted 2 groups coming in from below. They number approximately 50. I'm afraid They must be Tono's private army. Considering their numbers, they probably intend on killing us all. Nanae Kiri laughed delightedly. There was no feeling of anxiety, a situation where 50 armed men were closing in on this mansion. This place was deep in the mountains, and the landlord from the organization was already bought by their enemy. They were unable to seek help, and besides, there wouldn't be anyone who would come to their aid. In this situation, Kiri was laughing. Of course, because he already knew this was coming. No, it would be more accurate to say that he was waiting for this. But the Tonos, I don't know such fellows. I wonder when we incurred their hatred. Do you know? No. The Tonos were never our targets. Besides, they are on good terms with the organization, so there shouldn't be any instances where we did anything to them. I see, there must be some stupid reason. They are funny fellows to throw their lives away like that. Master, are you telling me that you're going out to fight them? Of course. We need to stop trouble beforehand, or it might disturb our sleep. If the higher-ups are just going to watch this, it'll be for better for us. No matter how many we kill, they'll clean up after our mess. But we won't be able to do that without casualties either. Our enemy aren't hybrids, but armed people. They are skillful and equipped like professional assassins. You're right. We won't be able to avoid bullets. Alright, I'll go on ahead and take care of the troublesome ones. I'll leave my older brother and the others in charge of disposing of the leftover meals. And so Kiri stood up. There was no need for a report on the enemy's route, since Kiri knew the terrain down to the individual trees. If he knew just the direction the enemies were approaching from, where they were headed to, he could naturally figure out their path. Master, what is it? What should we do with your son? If you order us to do so, we'll risk our lives to take him outside. Don't. You'll just be their target. If you have combat ability, have confidence in yourself. He's still a child who doesn't even have combat ability. So the only ones who need to be prioritized are you guys. But Shiki is our child. Then let him sleep. Maybe that'll be the best way for him to survive. Laughing delightfully, Kiri left the room. Oh boy. Oh, we know how this is gonna go down. Nanae Kiri went on ahead to strike the assailants. Since Kiri had been assassinating on his own, working together as a group would just mess him up. Kiri ran through the night, the forest that he knew everything about. There were 50 enemies. They were coming up the mountain equipped with heavy artillery. What idiots. Kiri swore as he slipped through the trees. If they were going to spend money, they should have just come in from above. It's too impractical to come up from below. Or were they seriously thinking they could hide themselves in this mountain? Against the Nanaia forest, filled with all kinds of traps. That's interesting that there's traps there. Oh, wow. That hurt my eyes. And then for a split second, there was a dull sound. A sudden assault. Comrades who were dead before they knew it. Numerous traps appearing from underground. They fired their weapons, trying to resist whatever it was, and sounds and lights continued to spark. In the confusion, they decreased their number one by one. The line of command must have been disrupted. Moving disorganized, they shouted. Even then, they were skilled individuals, and they escaped using their own judgment. And silence. The only things remaining in the forest were dead bodies. There were many kinds. A dead body crushed by a collapsed tree, a dead body that was shot by his comrade, a dead body whose neck was twisted off from behind, a dead body which was skewered through his brain to his neck, and so on. After verifying where all the assailants escaped to, Kiri started moving again. There were slightly more than 10 enemies left in this area, a number that Kiri could take out without taking too long. After finishing the last one, Kiri stopped. There were two options. He could go kill the other assailants, or he could keep going down and kill their enemy leader, most likely waiting and seeing how things will turn out from below. The assailants should already be surrounding the mansion from all four sides. There is much meaning to killing them one by one. Just when he thought of killing enemy leader and leaving the other assailants to the ones in the mansion, Nanaia Kiri encountered the one attacker that newly appeared. He was a young man with a single eye. Oh! Okay. Seemingly not carrying any firearms or weapons, he appeared by himself slowly from behind the shadow of the trees. Kiri's heart pounds rapidly. The face of the man who never even lifted his eyebrows in any kind of assassination froze when he saw that young man. Without thinking twice, he made an escape. As he was doing that, he triggered all the traps set up in the area. Flying blades, collapsing trees, masses of spears shooting up from the ground. The forest shook, and after no more than a second, the place that Kiri was standing was wrecked without leaving a trace. But there was no need to do that, because the assailant wouldn't be hurt from such things in the first place. "Are you Nanaya Kiri?" the young man asked, appearing from the collapsed forest as if nothing happened. Kiri glared at him without answering. The vermilion color flowed sharper than back then. The young man was a member of a clan called Kishima. I never knew he only had one eye. Mixing with a non-human race called the Ogres, the descendants of the ones who mixed not only the blood but the flesh as well. Oh, they did the do. A clan that was only wanted for the power of destruction. You can say that they were the Nanayas of the demon hybrids. But he had heard the bloodline of the Kishimas, which always produced those who lose their mind, died out after a few years ago. They weren't destroyed by others, but killed by one who lost his mind, produced by themselves. The one who lost his mind, I heard his name was Kishima Kouma. He was barely 10 when he destroyed all the Kishimas, the clan of demons, awakening the inhuman blood within himself, one who turned himself into a demon while still being human. Oh my god, they're really hyping up Kouma, huh? In an old legend, it was called Kurenai Sekishu. Hey kid, have we met before? Kiri took a deep stance and made Kouma come into his range. The young man called Kouma didn't answer, and just raised his arm. That moment, the battle began. Kiri was forestalled. In one step, he jumped under his opponent's guard and crushed his neck before he realized he got hit. That move he believed would have no equal got literally smashed into pieces by the single blow of an enemy. Kishima Kouma jumped in first before Nanai Kiri took his step, raising a wind noise. A wind noise? What does that mean? What do you mean to raise a wind noise? Or a winding noise? He stood in front of Kiri and thrust out his fringed arm. Don't get grabbed, bro. Although surprised, he dodged that and pierced the elbow of the arm that was poorly extended. That was supposed to have made Kouma's arm useless. But Kouma's body didn't have a scratch, all hitbox shenanigans. Kiri instantly understood that his enemy's body was as hard as steel and jumped back to open a distance. The demonic hand of the one-eyed chases after him. Never knew he had one eye. Kiri was backed up against a large tree. He lured Kouma's thrusting arm and dodged it by a hairline. Kouma's arm didn't stop and struck the large tree. I got him, thought Kiri. However, he decided to pull back. Kiri prioritized his decision. In order to open a distance to Kouma, who was supposed to be wide open, Kiri turned his body into a spring. That instant, the large tree that Kishima Kouma had struck collapsed. Huh? Many things occurred for the first time tonight. Kiri raised a voice during a battle for the first time. But that couldn't be helped. The large tree was almost a meter thick, and there was no way it could have fallen down just from the punch of a person. And yet, he knocked it down. Furthermore, it wasn't by the impact of the hit, but this man crushed the large tree in his hand. Huh? Whoa. His grip strength wasn't of a dimension that could just be called strong. Whoa. The single eye beamed across. It captured Kiri, who was trying to escape. Ha. Kiri laughed. He didn't laugh at the result of his own assassination skills until now, but for the first time, he laughed thinking of the battle that was about to take place. It was a fabulous time. No matter what he did, he wasn't able to hurt the boy, and the only thing he could do was to run around. All the traps set in the forest had no effect, and Kiri's weapon couldn't even scratch him. There was no chance for him to win. There was no chance for him to go home alive. But it was a fabulous time. At least Kiri felt that way. Kishima Kouma was charging at him. That was just a charge. He was surprised by the speed at first, but it was nothing after he got used to it. At any rate, this man didn't know any skills of assassination. His charge like a gust of wind, his arm that thrusts like the sickle of the god of death, his body of steel that repel all kinds of weapons. He was just born with all these things. The young man, called Kishima Kouma, never did anything that could be considered as training. Oh, so we got a Frieza situation. We got a situation of, I've never trained, I'm just naturally like this, which makes him with training to be the scariest thing. This was such a primitive form of destruction with nothing extra. Kiri couldn't stop laughing. A demonic arm that could destroy him, just by touching, flew right in front of his eyes. Dodging that to the left by a hair's breadth, he thrust his weapon at the enemy's unguarded left side of the neck. Of course, that had no effect. He'd been repeating it dozens of times, but Kouma's neck wasn't hurt. Kiri was laughing at himself in his mind. You couldn't even kill one person after all this, and you call yourself the greatest assassin? But there was no need for an embarrassment. If it had been against a normal person, the precise blows would have certainly killed him 40 times over. And that's 4 times 20, that's a lot. That's 4 times 10. I literally screwed up the reference to the Lex Luthor's pies. Without missing a single millimeter, dodging the demonic hand of instant death, he kept hitting on the same spot. How could anyone else but Nanae do such a thing that could be considered an illness? After several collapses of trees, when Kiri saw Kouma's arm crushing the trunk in his hand, he thought, if Nanae was a demon god who pursued killing, Kishima Kouma must be a demon god who was a master of destroying. Those are different, yeah. Their powers were similar but different. It's probably wrong to compare them, but Kiri knew that he was inferior to him. Yeah, I'd say killing is precise, destroying is not. Destroying is flagrant and, everywhere. The only one who can fight this against this demon god equally is one who is a similar master of death. After all, Nanae, who pursued death, who never had it from the beginning, couldn't get up to that level. If there was anything who could fight with him equally, then it would just be like this demon god, a thing that was born broken. However, for this reason, because it was Nanae who wasn't born with death, there was a horizon that could be reached. After several demonic hands of Kouma, Kishima Kouma's expression didn't change one bit. That was because he was an uninterested killer just like Nanae in the past. A killer who did not fear his own death nor his target, but just concentrated on his activities. We were both losing out, weren't we, kid? Kiri thought. In killing his laughter, he prepared for the final blow. I was really losing out. I never knew that a battle was something so awful. A fear that flips over your heart, uncertain if your blow will be able to defeat your opponent. The mind turning white and everything becoming meaningless. I feel like throwing up. It is difficult to kill my laughter. I was really losing out. There is a problem with its shape, but this is such a simple struggle for life. Then, there could be no other moment that I would feel so alive. The flying demonic arm. Again dodging by a hair's breadth, Kiri rolled over to the right side. A change occurred in Kishima Kouma's single eye. Similarly, Nanae himself for the first time felt his own death. Because Nanae kept on dodging to the left side, Kishima Kouma couldn't follow his target that slipped to the right. Oh, that's smart. In addition, this is an absolute blind spot for him who had his right eye crushed. The flying weapon. With all his strength, Kiri strikes his weapon into Kouma's neck. Not to the left side of the neck that he had kept on striking, but to the right side. Precisely, just like the left side, the location where it is beautifully symmetrical. The reason he poked the child's eye the moment he saw him. This was the reason. He, at the time, sensed that he wouldn't be able to defeat the monster called Kouma. Just this once in his life, he prepared a chance to win out of a personal emotion. In the distant future, if there were a time when he had to fight this monster, he'd be able to end it with this one blow. Wow. You prepped it. You bastard. The dry and dead voice of Kouma. Damn. Kiri was the one who cursed. The laughter that he was suppressing subsided. His weapon was embedded into the neck about 1 centimeter deep. The impact should have penetrated the left side of the neck for sure. Then the accumulated damage should have broken Kouma's neck. What are you? Then, why was Kouma raising his voice? No, that's him? Kiri was knocked over into a tree. Kouma snatched his body and just threw him. Nanai Kiri's stomach area was crushed in that instant, and his remaining upper body slides down the trunk. The next moment, Kouma ran to the tree, and Nanai's face was smashed instantly. If there's a reason Nanai Kiri lost, then it must have been that he lost his life itself. Or that it must have been his life itself. Nanai Kiri was an assassin, not a murderer. That's why he only poked the eye out at the time. Even if he sensed that it would eventually become a powerful threat, he couldn't kill a child. That was the most simple reason why Kouma lived and Nanai Kiri died. Kouma felt his neck slowly. There was a dull pain. Kouma didn't know. He grew up without knowing what pain was. That's why he didn't know if this pain would be a little stronger. He didn't know that if this pain had been a little stronger, his neck would have fallen off. His heart pounded rapidly. An unknown order ran through his body. His fingertips shook and his eyes couldn't focus. He breathed consciously for the first time and looked down at the dead body in front of him. Another heartbeat. His body felt hard like it was part of another person. It feels like a dream, Kouma thought. But that's not it. He finally woke up from a dream. 6 years ago, just like Nanai Kiri, who hurt the child who might kill him out of his own will for the first time, and lost his sanity. It was just like the cluttered mist on himself, where everything felt empty and meaningless, came off. But he couldn't understand what it was. He couldn't stand it when he thought of the mist returning, and he would simply return to his empty self again if he did nothing. It's hot, but it's a pleasant heat. That's what it means to live and to breathe. It was after he killed this man that he felt it. That's why he thought that if he repeated it, this heat would continue. A voice leaked out from the monster's mouth. The monster started walking in the Nanai forest. He was losing his mind. My man's inversion impulsing, it's happening. And all it took was nearly dying by a neck wound. Ooh, the theme. Nice. Oh, I like that. Oh, okay. Their screams sounded like reed cropping. The moon was in the distance. The forest was quiet. Oh, it's different. All right. I started walking into the empty darkness. I met a demon in the black field. The ground was burnt and the grass field had turned into a wildland. The wildland was vermilion-colored, as if it was stuffed with strawberries and red-colored like blood. There was a vermilion-colored demon standing there. It was hazy like a mirage, so it wasn't scary. When I vacantly looked up at it, it looked like it was laughing. But maybe it didn't know how to laugh, and it didn't look too happy. "Are you an Anaya?" it said, laughing. I nodded yes and asked if it knew where my dad was. The demon smiled even more. "You'll eventually see him." As he said that, sharpening his red eyes, he disappeared, as if he was eaten by the bush. Someone is calling me in the distance. It's scary to be alone, so I need to go deeper into the forest. On the other side of the curtain of trees, there were noises like a festival. Nanaya Shiki walks deeper into the forest. This is the end of the story. It's an old story that no one knows about anymore, so there isn't anyone who knows how it ended either. If there is anyone, it's probably only that. A blue moon in the sky. The story begins here. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that was interesting. So I did know about the fact that Kouma carps? Carps? What do you mean carps? What the frick? Carps like the fish? Okay, I did know about Kouma being someone who was there on the night of the Nanai killing. That was something that Melty Blood, when he was announced, they put a tweet out with that. So like I knew about that. So that wasn't new info to me, but a lot of this setup kind of was. History made a sandwich and you died. Wait, what? Oh god, okay. Well, that sucks. Okay. That was longer than I expected, honestly. That was a lot longer than I expected. So I guess that's all we're doing today. Because like that was a nice solid story chunk. What I do want to look up is I do want to see what Nanai Kiri looks like. I'm curious. Cause was he like an old guy? Does he look like an older Shiki? Does he just look like Shiki? I'm really curious. So I'm actually going to give him a quick Google right now. Okay. Nanai Kiri. Just gonna see if he has a design or if he's just text only. Okay, yeah, he does have a design. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, wow, okay. Okay, you can give it a Google yourself, because I don't want to be bringing up any text or anything. I'm just looking at the small thumbnail for the Type Moon fandom wiki. Okay. Very sharp eyes on him. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Okay. Thank you all for watching, and next time we'll be back with some more. Let's read Kagetsu Tohya. We'll go back to that main storyline there. I've been told, like, the rest you can leave off to the end. It's fine, but that one was one that I was recommended. Hey, for the context of everyone, as well as yourself, you'll probably want to read this one beforehand. So, yeah, sounds good. Thank you all for watching, guys. We'll see you next time for some more Let's Read Kagetsu Tohya. We'll see you then for that. Ciao.